Glad to be here and be able to be in this space with you. My name is Mercedes Piedra, and I'm one of the directors for the Office for Health Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. So welcome to our Growing as a Community during these political times that elevate our stress. For those who have returning to our Growing as a Community, we've started our webcasts at the beginning of the first pandemic of COVID-19 and have picked up ever since then from the death of George Floyd, and really have stressed the inequities of our society and our nation. And with all of that, we definitely have had a common thread of wellness, to take care of ourselves first and foremost, for the work that we're doing together, the pandemics that we're living through together, and also trying to build our wellness together, because we know the science shows that we grow in community, even virtually. So today's guest is Dr. Hendry Tan, and you may remember that Dr. Tan is the Associate Vice Chancellor for Health Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion here at the health system in Sacramento, California. Dr. Tan is a psychiatrist, but in addition to being Associate Vice Chancellor, and wears many, many hats as leader, an executive leader for our health system. So welcome, Dr. Tan.
Thank you, Mercedes. It's really nice to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. So everyone, we're opened up the chat, and we want to have just one question before we begin our program, and just have everyone just put one or two words of how you're showing up today. How are you feeling today? And you can just populate that into the chat so we can get a sense of where everyone's at and coming into this space. We do this regularly through our community circles and definitely our racial healing circles. So, and we'll talk more about that. So as you'll see in the chat, we have hopeful, we have stable, exhausted, some disconnection, disillusionment, anxious and tired, absolutely. Yep, optimistic too. And so we're going to be able to touch base on the areas of our wellness, our holistic wellness, specifically our emotional, psychological, and spiritual wellness that affects our physical wellness. So as we're populating this, some folks are still feeling confused and disconnected. And so we're going to talk about all of that and how to help us through this challenging time. So at this point, Dr. Tan's going to take us through a meditative practice, which has been a very successful practice for most of our sessions together. So Dr. Tan.
Thank you. So in the next few minutes, I'd like to welcome you to join me in a mindfulness meditation exercise. This is something that you can easily access wherever you're at, and it could take as long as a few seconds or as long as a few minutes. So there's a lot of flexibility here. And I want to invite those of you who may not feel comfortable meditating, just to take a moment of quiet as I lead the meditation. So if you can just situate yourself, find that comfortable spot in your seat. You don't have to be perfectly comfortable, but just settle into your chair. Ground your body into your chair. If you can, set your feet flat on the ground. If you're wearing shoes, that's okay. I just want you to feel the texture, either inside your shoe, if you're in barefoot, feel the texture of the ground beneath your feet. Just getting into that space of being aware of the ground supporting you. You don't need to focus on anything with your eyes. You can choose to close your eyes or just stare off into the distance, not focusing on anything, but just letting your gaze settle somewhere, unfocused, unencumbered. If you want, You can also turn off your video. That can help you to get into that space, being mindful. Feel that sensation of the ground supporting your feet, chair supporting your body. And I want you to pay attention to your breath. As you breathe in, feel the coolness of the air. It just rushes or even falls into your lungs. Notice how your body responds to the air. Do you feel your body letting go to welcome in more? Feel your body tingle as it makes contact with the life-nourishing oxygen. Imagine that life-giving air flowing through your body, nourishing the parts of you that are tired. Parts of you that are tense. The hot spots. Feeling that cool air touch those hot spots and cool it down. Please turn your attention also as you breathe out. No need to force the air out. Just let go. And notice how your body just naturally lets go of the hot air, the stress. Feel the heat exit your body as it slips into a deeper state of relaxation. Notice what happens to your body as you let go of that breath. Feel the tension go down. Breathing in, life-giving energy. Breathing out, letting go. Falling into the ground, the support of earth. Breathing in, feeling freshness. Breathing out, letting go. Notice that moment of stillness in between your breaths. No need to hold your breath. Just notice it. Effortless, in between the moment of stillness. Know that you can always find stillness in that moment. If you miss it once, that's okay. Your next breath will give you the opportunity again. Breathing in nourishment, stillness, and letting go. Let's take a few more breaths. Grounding yourself, rejuvenating yourself, allowing yourself to let go, to be suspended in time, weightless for a moment. Now, if you can, I'd like for you to start to turn your attention back to our community here at Zoom. You step out of the meditation. I want to share with you a reflection that was shared to me. A story about a person who went to a meditation retreat, and at that retreat, they learned a lot about meditation, and they had a practice, a consistent practice. And oftentimes, what's in meditation retreats, there's a bell or a gong or a cymbal, something that rings that reminds you, hey, let's take some time to meditate throughout the day. And this person got really good at meditation. And then when the person left the retreat, they really struggled. Where do I find the time to meditate? I'm commuting to work. I'm working all day. Where do I find the time to meditate? I don't have a bell to remind me about meditation. And the person's teacher shared that the time is all around you. Because if you take your breath, then that's an opportunity. And you don't have to schedule a full 5 minutes, 10 minutes like we did to do a meditation exercise. I often take just a couple of seconds. Even with a couple of seconds, to be mindful about a couple of cycles of my breath can help to ground me. It's amazing how much the body recognizes and resonates with those opportunities, as small as they are, to engage in relaxation. And so what I'll do is sometimes in the middle of seeing a patient, when we start to talk about something that is really stressful and I feel my blood pressure rising, I'll just take a moment to be mindful of my breath. And it's just a fleeting moment. It can be, it's done wonders for me to be able to then be more mindful and attentive and engaged with my patient. So I want to just share with you that this is a technique. This is a technique that's it's been done in many psychological practices that comes from cultural practices um, in Asian countries, and it's available for you in these times of stress.
Thank you, Dr. Tan. And what we know is the science behind the breathing, the deep breathing, gets the oxygen into our blood, gets the oxygen into our muscles. So any of the tensions that we're feeling may be able to be relaxed, the more oxygen that we can get into our bodies. And that's part of the radical self-care that we're talking about, is being able to really put yourselves as the priorities, taking agency where you possibly can. With all of the political strife, we really have to look at, okay, what have I done? Did I do the voting? Did I participate and show up the way I needed to? And then from there, just being able to have some surrender around it, some release around it, and the meditative practices and multitude of other practices are so beneficial, as Dr. Tan was outlining. So Dr. Tan, what other holistic strategies can we offer our attendees?
Well, I think that specific to the election and cultivating our wellness, I think that it's really important that that we give ourselves permission to feel. It's very important that you know, we have safety to express our feelings, and so I think the first an important step is to connect with people that you trust, people that you are part of that that inner circle of friends, family, who understand you and accept you, um, and to be able to share your feelings. You know, when we share our feelings, it actually does help us to let go, and it helps to reduce our stress. People who hold their feelings in, you know, we run a greater risk of having higher tension, having higher stress levels. And even if you know, you don't feel comfortable turning to any individual at the moment, there are things that you can do. I tend to be an introverted person, and so expressing myself is not something that I do, you know, quite naturally. But what I really love to do is sit down, do some painting or do some drawing. And then I just noticed that I have a running dialogue of my day as I do that. And allowing myself that space to be able to just have whatever thoughts come into my mind without judgment, without saying, oh, well, what are you going to do about that? Or you shouldn't feel that way. Or, you know, how can you change that? I allow myself a break from that and give myself that positive, unconditional regard. The sense that whatever it is you're feeling, whatever it is you're thinking, there's a good reason behind that. And I just want you to be able to express it. And I say that to myself to give myself that kind of permission. You know, in this day, with the elections, and there's still, you know, quite a bit of uncertainty, as people have shared. It's really important that you give yourself permission to not talk about politics if that's the space that you're in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a lot of you know, the mindset. If we look at the polls, you know, it's pretty split right now, and so
I think Dr. Tan's, oh, there you are. Okay. Dr. Tan, you froze up.
Thank you, Maria. It may be a good time.
Mm-hmm. So Dr. Tan's having some technical difficulties. Um, we'll just continue on with our session. Can you hear us, Dr. Tan?
I can, and I'm going to go ahead and move to a different area with better internet. So I'll be
Sure.
right there.
Yeah, please. And so, as Dr. Tan was outlining, the permission we give ourselves to be able to feel the feelings that we have, but not stuffing them down. And so, for introverts, it's really important to be able to also express that, as he stated. And some folks like to journal. There's something about being able to journal our thoughts out, get it out of our head, get it out of our body so it's on the outside, so that we don't hold that tension in our bodies, because that tension just is not doing us any good. What we know in the science is that it does affect our health outcomes, and we want to improve our health outcomes holistically. So Dr. Tan, you're back.
Yes, sorry about that. Those technical glitches. I'm much closer to my router right now, so I'm hoping it'll be a bit more stable. So, so spending time for that self-care, I think, is very, very important.
Mm-hmm.
And as you said, we all have different ways of coping and being in tune with that. Those of us who are more extroverted, getting together with friends over Zoom or socially distanced may be just the right kind of medicine to take. And you may have some boundaries that you want to share with your friends. What do we want to talk about during this time together? Can we have some, if you're feeling like you need the distance from the elections, can we focus on not talking about that for the next 20 or so minutes? So establishing those boundaries. And then again, for those of us who are more introverted, what are the things that we can do that helps us to restore our energy? And again, a lot of introverted people, it's not that introverted people don't have those feelings, it's just that the expression of those feelings are maybe more inside our minds than with our voices.
Mm-hmm. And Dr. Tan, I want to lift up what Justin just shared in the chat. Is he's taking some time to talk to himself, being able to say, this is out of our control, this is out of my control. And so releasing some of those expectations on ourselves that we're supposed to be doing more or moving more, or the shoulds in our head. This is a time for self-compassion. This whole pandemic, this entire year, is what we need is for our own radical self-care, is the self-compassion of our thoughts, how we take care of our mental health, how we take care of our spiritual health, our holistic health. So as Dr. Tan was outlining, giving ourselves those permissions to be kind to ourselves, especially if you're working in the healthcare field or service-oriented fields. We're always giving so much of ourselves that we really need to take that pause for ourselves to say, this is okay, as Dr. Tan was stating, giving ourselves permission to take this time, put those boundaries up, schedule your self-care, being here in community with us virtually, in addition to reaching out to others. So those permissions and the kindness for ourselves are really the radical care that we're needing to alleviate the tensions, but fostering that wellness during all of these times. And so to do that, we're also building resilience. And so Dr. Tan, can you outline the factors of resilience for us?
Yeah, well, part of resilience has to do with being able to come back from setbacks, to rise from setbacks. And so it's not resilience isn't the absence of anxiety. It's not that people are invulnerable to what's going on in the world, but it's rather that after the events happen, that we sort of are able to ground ourselves and then to look at the opportunities and the ways to grow from that. some of those things have to do with being realistic and understanding agency, as Mercedes, Justin, and Pamela have shared, the sense of, what are the things that are within my power to do to affect change. So that's an important part of it. The other important part about this is also cultivating self-love. So part of that is, understanding that how you might be feeling is okay, that there's no need to judge yourself and think of yourself as less than. Oftentimes people will compare, I might compare myself to another person who seems really put together. And when I do that, then I get this negative impression of myself. Well, part of this is understanding that people look often much better on the outside than they do feel on the inside. And so part of that self-care is to recognize that, hey, you know what? That person that looks put together, they may not be, they may actually feel quite like me. And I don't need to judge myself on that, because I know that that's a common thing that happens. And vice versa, just as an aside, that also means that your coworker that seems to be doing well, they may not be doing well as well. And so as you take care of yourself and you feel that readiness to connect with others and check in with others, remember that as well. That's oftentimes there is a core that we need to, in terms of taking care of ourselves, but that next step in the healing process is often healing as a community.
And with that, Dr. Tan, we have so many resources at the health system, right? And so we've been working with our patient care services unit, and they have relationship-based curriculum that is open to our UC Davis Health System employees. And one curriculum is Reigniting the Spirit of Care. And we as leaders, as providers, really have to look at our own self-care and doing that self-awareness for that care. So for anyone who's interested, looking up Reigniting the Spirit and seeing if you can participate in that course will help us with the self-care and the needs for our own wellness. It's a great 3-day presentation and work that our employees get to work on themselves. And once again, it's taking that time, that pause for ourselves to reflect on what our needs are. And so many times with our stressors and what have you, we also look at our values. Where's the connection of our values? Sometimes the current social, political challenges are grating on our values because our values aren't in alignment with what's going on in our society. So ensuring that we're working in those areas to fulfill ourselves, to fill our tanks instead of emptying them is a huge benefit, in addition to those messages we're giving ourselves, making sure that we don't have high expectations of ourselves. A lot of times our work expects definite detail and perfection because our health outcomes for our patients are crucial and for our students and all our communities. But we don't have to work at that higher level with our relationships and our own self-care. So the curriculums that we have for relationship-based care really has to enact our ability for relationship-based communities. And that's the inclusion component of our office and the wellness that's critical for us to be an inclusive organization for all of the communities we serve. So Dr. Tan, on the topic of wellness and, checking in with ourselves, not comparing ourselves to anyone else, but really having that compassion for ourselves is extremely, extremely important. Those permissions that we give ourselves, the tools of what we have to offer at the health system, there's quite a few. Can you speak a little bit more about relationship-based climates, relationship-based care, getting away from the transactions relationships, more into the depth of relationships?
Yeah. So, I'm my psychotherapeutic tradition is around humanistic psychology, and which is relationship based. And I think that in my practice, I try to avoid the transactional aspects of being in a relationship with a client. I want to amplify and speak to a comment that Justin made in the chat about, personally, I don't want to say that it'll be okay. And I think that is a really important notion to carry forth, because saying that something is okay is a very transactional comment, because it doesn't really speak to the perhaps the truth of the matter. It sort of can send the message to someone that the worries that you have are not valid, especially if it's said without a good understanding of what concerns the person that you're in relationship with. And so part of what we try to cultivate in a relationship-based work is not to say that things will be okay, because things may or may not be okay. And okay means one thing to me and a different thing to someone else. And so saying okay can actually overshadow the concerns and experience of the person that you're trying to care for, but rather to say that I will be with you, that I am here with you, and we'll do this together. We will get through this. I'm not sure how, but one thing I'm sure of is that I'll be here. And that is actually much, I think, closer to what it is that we can do, but also has that impact of not devaluing or invalidating the person's experience, and yet at the same time connecting with that sense of community, which is one of the factors of resilience, is having relationships that that you feel are strong and are validating and contributing to those relationships as well.
Yes, Dr. Tan, thank you. There's just a few comments that I just want to clarify for others. The Reigniting the Spirit course is at the Health System campus, and not all courses that are available to us cross over to both campuses. But I know that they're looking to expand that, and so we're also working on that, and we'll definitely inform everyone when that's available. So, Dr. Tan, in the current climate and what you're outlining currently, the meditative practices that you have always taken us through, which everyone can also follow all of our pre-recordings of these sessions for added meditations that we've utilized a lot of our community members who specialize in that. So please refer to our website for that. Really wanting to lift up the need for those communication skills also, Dr. Tan. As we know, a lot of us, including myself, have family members who have different political views than myself. And we were just talking about, how do we manage and navigate those discussions, or do we navigate those discussions? Can you give us a little insight on that?
Yeah, I think that this is a really important question, and many people that I've talked to have shared questions and concerns about how do we come together as a community, how do we improve dialogues. It seems like people are operating on different sets of facts, and how do we bring together communication. And I do think that communication is very important. As a therapist, as a refugee, I've found the power of communication as part of the healing process. At the same time, I think it's really important to understand that there's a time and place for it, and that there needs to be a readiness for communication, and to allow yourself that space to be ready or not to be ready. The things that are going on, the dialogues, the challenges of racial injustice, COVID-19, you know, many of us have been touched by illness and death of in various ways of stress. It's a raw place for us to be, and the election is yet another incredibly stressful experience. I want us to have permission to not have conversations right now, if they're triggering, and that very well can be the case. I've worked with many people who are survivors of trauma, and the initial work that we do isn't, well, how am I going to talk about this to others? It's more of, how do I have self-acceptance? How do I cultivate my sense of self-love? How do I take care of myself and grow my own strength? And then at some point, people do turn to others, which often is part of the healing process for a lot of people. But there is a time and place for it. Now, at the same time, it is really important that we don't isolate. Okay, so that means cultivating a network, a community of people who care about us, and cultivating within ourselves the capacity to be caring to others. You know, it's actually quite amazing. A lot of my patients, the turning points in their life often isn't when we found the right medications, or you know, when you know, their symptoms get under control. That's really not what a lot of my patients have been looking for in terms of healing, although that's all part of the process. But the big part of the process is actually the sense that I have a community. Mm-hmm. I belong now, and people appreciate me, and I have something to share, and I feel that connection with the other person. And that's, you know, the traumas or the challenges and stresses that I've experienced, I've needed to withdraw into my shell to heal, but there's a time where I don't want to be disconnected, and I want to be connected again. Mm-hmm. And that initial work is actually not actually reaching out to someone. It's actually starting that internal work of healing and building and cultivating that capacity of love, mm-hmm. love for yourself and love for others. And later on in this session, I sort of go over another form of meditation, which I've shared before in this series, but another form of meditation. And I'll start by talking about the benefits, the scientific benefits of this other technique that I'll share with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we'll be doing that in the next few minutes here, Dr. Tan. We do have a question from one of our attendees, you know, the supporting students' wellness when they're in spaces with people who have radically different political views from them. You know, once again, with our student groups, you know, they need the support also, but we as leaders, you know, are looking at all that Dr. Tan is offering for us, and that too can benefit our students. There's also, you know, a practice of when we can start to heal and be in a better space, there's times where we can detach our emotions from the triggers of, some of these conversations that may be going around us, but we don't have to be involved in it. So Dr. Tan, in your humanistic perspective and the self-care that we want to do and the self-compassion, can you just touch a little bit on detaching emotionally just from those activated type of experiences?
Absolutely, yes. Um, so, so thank goodness that our minds have the capacity for compartmentalization. There's a reason why we have that. It's to help us to get through situations that we can't really avoid, but to being able to protect ourselves emotionally as we get through that. So by intellectualizing things and so for people who, for students who are in spaces like patient care spaces, for example, really focusing on the clinical care, the task at hand, and really refocusing back on the task at hand. If like you're in a group situation where you're having you and your team are going towards a particular goal, that kind of compartmentalization can be really helpful. And then, look for those opportunities to refresh yourself. If there's a break, excuse yourself, do some meditative exercises to ground yourself again. Those are some things that have been very helpful for me. When I was a resident, psychiatry resident, I was the first Vietnamese resident to work with Vietnam veterans in the VA system, and I found that it was really triggering for me to hear about the experiences of our vets hurting people who were my people. But at the same time, so I want to take it also from a humanistic standpoint, which is as you start to develop relationships with your patients or your team, compartmentalization may, for you, give way to a sense of, there's more to this person than that belief, or there's more to that belief than what I see on the surface. And that, from a humanistic psychology standpoint, is a really important aspect of the healing process for the patient, is to have that acceptance, not the agreement that, and for my patients, it might have been like, being in a situation where they, it led to the death of someone in my community. But it was that sense of, wanting to heal, wanting to find redemption from that, or wanting to move forward in a healing way, or wanting forgiveness from me, even though I had nothing to do with that event. But this desire for healing, for comfort, the suffering, those things were also tremendous factors for me to cope with this, what I felt was, highly triggering experiences. Now, of course, there were a lot of people who didn't want me to be in that setting, and so, but I wanted to be in that setting. So there is that sense of agency that is also very powerful as well, the sense of choice. And so that's, sometimes we have choices, sometimes we don't, but acknowledging and being mindful about that when you can, I think is also incredibly important. I do want to say that, the year that I worked with my veteran clients was one of the most growing years, and actually helped me to heal some of the pain and scars and wounds that I have as a Vietnamese refugee. And so I want to say that I came away with a strong sense of wanting to honor our veterans, and so I share with you the story to share with you the challenges that I had, but to also, I want to make sure that the message of honoring our veterans who were put in situations that were incredibly hard,
Right.
and doing so, you know, for my veterans, they were forced to, and to honor that courage, that bravery, to honor the wounds as well, and to honor that hope and wish for healing and redemption that many of my veteran clients really strive for and yearn for.
So important, Dr. Tan, you know, in the spirit of the humanistic perspective that you've lifted up for us. So important for us to really do that self-evaluation of our own traumas, of our own hurt, so that we're coming into spaces and relationships in a healed perspective, so that we can honor everyone's humanity. And whenever we're getting activated or we're off our center, really looking at what's stealing our peace, and why is something on the exterior stealing my internal peace, and why am I going to try to give power to that? Also, Dr. Tan and I work very closely, and I'm just going to use us as an example. You know, we work all the time together, and for the most part, we agree on so much of the work that we do. But if we were ever to be in a disagreement, and I don't think we have yet, but there's no way that I would ever be disagreeable with him as a human being. That's just not the nature of who I am. Sure, we're not going to agree. I don't agree with my family members. I don't agree with my next door neighbor, but I can never be disagreeable with a human person, because the relationship is so much more important to me than the little strife or idea that wasn't accepted or what have you. And that takes a lot of work, and that takes a lot of self-reflection. But during this time of so much quote unquote division, really looking internally, like Dr. Tan is giving us all of these great tools, always keeping our peace, reserving our peace, putting up those boundaries for ourselves. And that's the radical self-care that we all need, and the radical self-compassion that we need. So Dr. Tan, with our final minutes, I'm going to turn it over to you for the compassionate meditative process that you want to take us through.
Thank you, Mercedes. So, so just really quickly, this meditation exercise is called Loving Kindness exercise, and it was developed in you know, the South Asia, East Asian areas, and but it's quickly and deeply being used in other parts of the country as well. It can increase your well-being. It can increase your sense of joy and gratitude. There's been some studies that actually show that it actually increases joy and contentment. It can also increase physical well-being, decreasing migraines. There were some studies that also looked at how it decreased chronic pain and traumatic stress as well. So we've used this in working with veterans who have been diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. This can also be used with other trauma-related stresses as well, including racial and gender-based trauma as well. So what I'd like for us to do is to, again, find a comfortable place in your environment to sit and start to be mindful again about your breath. And this meditation is going to practice some sayings, some words, and at times these words may feel not as meaningful to you, but I want you to just be meaningful with and mindful with every word. So breathing in, rejuvenation, stillness, breathing out, relaxation, letting go. I want you to imagine a good friend, a loving family member who may be in the present or maybe in the past. And I want you to imagine that they're sitting or standing right next to you. Almost feel their warmth right next to you. I want you to imagine them smiling at you and sending these words to you. May you be happy. I want you to imagine hearing that. I want you to notice how that feels. May you be healthy. May you be safe. May you be at ease. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be safe. May you be at ease. I want you to feel that positive regard, that love, that compassion on this person. As you breathe in, as you let go, breathing out. I want you to start to feel that love for yourself. And in your mind's voice, say to yourself, may I be happy. May I be healthy. May I be safe. May I be at ease. Allow yourself that love, that compassion to be turned inward. I want you to feel that love inside of you, that warmth, that positive regard. And now I want you to imagine that person beside you. Or if you like, imagine another person in your life at the present. Someone that is a loved one, a good friend, a trusted member of your circle. Feel that natural desire that you have to see them happy, to see them at ease. Because just like you, they want to be happy. They deserve to feel safe and to be healthy. And cultivate your kindness towards them. So offer this person in your mind's eye. Imagine looking at them with love, and in your mind's voice, offer these phrases. May you be happy. May you be healthy, my loved one. May you be safe. May you be at ease. Feel that love flowing not from you, but through you. May you be happy. May you be healthy. May you be safe. May you be at ease. take a few more minutes of sharing that positive regard. And then focus back on our community. I want to share that this meditation exercise, we started this meditation exercise by self-love and sort of filling up your battery of love. And the way that people who practice this exercise view love and kindness, it's like a fountain with water, and that water being love and positive regard. And the first bowl that fountain fills up is you, so that you can fill yourself up with love. And then that love overflows. And it overflows to our friends and our family. And this is really important. And as a clinician, I found this really important. It was a game changer for me, actually, because I had been feeling that either I need to like save some love for myself or give it to someone else. And so I would feel guilty about saving love for myself, because as a provider, it somehow meant that I was not giving love to my patients. But this changed things for me, because I realized that if I give love to myself, then I'll be a loving person. And then it would just be natural and effortless for me to be loving to others. And that's the difference between limited love and limitless love, or limitless compassion. The sense that if you fill yourself up with love for yourself, with acceptance for yourself, that others around you cannot help but benefit from that. Now, this is an internal exercise. And of course, there are things that we need to do on an external level as well to address injustices, to address inequities. It's not just the internal work that will make our society a better place, but it's the internal work, I believe, that can help us to get there, and can help us to get there as a community, and help us to get there with strength and resilience.
Beautiful, Dr. Tan. Thank you so much for all of the tools and the reminders for ourselves, and that the love continues to flow through us in all the work that we do. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for coming into our space to be able to be together and heal in community as we grow in community. And join us again on Monday as we're going to continue to invest in each and every one of us for crucial conversations in growing as a community. Once again, wanting to invest in each and every one of you. Thank you, Dr. Tan. Thank you, everyone, for your participation, your warmth, and your connection.